Welcome to the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. Welcome, everyone. Tonight, I'm excited to be sitting chatting with a couple of friends, actually, Jen and Christine. So welcome. Why don't you tell us, since there's two of you, who you are and tell us about the members of your family.
What? Me? Yep. That's gonna happen. My name is Jen. This is Christine. We have two little ones. We have a 5-year-old boy named Huxley, and a 2.5-year-old girl whose name is Grayson.
Yeah. 2.5. Wow.
I know, right? When did that happen?
I don't know. I think we blinked. COVID happened in a baby. Something like that. Of the various methods that are available to 2S LGBTQIA+ individuals in creating their families, would you tell us about how the two of you decided to create your family?
Decide is a tricky one because I don't think it was so much a decision. It was kind of, there were some options available to us, but it was a little bit of trial and error. We knew what options were there, and then we kind of just started the process and just almost blindly went into it in a way. And I wish we had a lot more information, but it is what it is. And so we ended up just going through the basic steps, went to the doctor, went to the fertility clinic, and then we did IUI. So that was it for us.
Excellent. Yeah, perfect. Given that achieving parenthood for members of our community is not easy and it's virtually never free or almost never free, are you comfortable giving us an idea as to how much money you had to spend in order to be able to create the family you've got?
I think we figured around $8,000 or $9,000 by the time things were said and done. It took 3 tries with Huxley and 2 tries with Gracie.
Yeah.
Sperm is way more expensive than we expected to be, right?
Yeah.
It's how much?
Yeah.
What?
And then a lot of other just little additional costs in there, but we estimate it to be roughly between 8,000 and 9,000.
When they wash it and then they charge you to implant the sperm and implant.
No,
whatever it is.
Insert.
Implant seems close enough in my brain. But there's a lot more fees associated than just like being a straight couple and
sure
trying to have a baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair enough. And are you comfortable saying whether you used a known donor or an anonymous donor? And if you're comfortable, are you comfortable telling us why you made the decision you made? Because it's a big decision. Like it's a part of the conversation that needs to happen, right?
Yeah, it is a big decision. And initially we didn't, how you kind of like check off one or the other. We just left it because we kind of figured whoever was the right donor for us was going to be the right donor. And then we would just go from there. And then after some conversations and everything, we found somebody that we thought would be a good fit for us, and they were known, and we're like, are we going to be okay with that? And then at the end of the day, what it mostly came down to was that we're bringing our children into the world, but ultimately it's their journey. And so if our children ever want to be able to contact the donors for whatever reason, then at least they have the option and the opportunity to do that. And we had one donor for Hoxley and then a different donor for Grayson. And so when we were choosing for Grayson, we did tick off that box because we wanted to make sure that it was fair for both of them, that we weren't choosing known for one and then unknown for another. So, yeah. So
I think too, like there's the option for folks to have a known donor, like somebody that they know in their life.
Oh yeah.
And like, we didn't talk about that a whole lot, but I think we both just sort of knew right off the bat that we didn't want somebody we knew in like
Right.
real life.
Mhm.
Because I think like, how do you, like if you're friends with somebody enough, in my brain anyways, if you're friends with somebody enough to be like, hey, do you want to have, like, give us your sperm to have a baby, like you're going to
Right.
want to keep them around. And I just think that it becomes very complicated, right? Like I know as a person, if I had a child and was in their life but not as a parent, that I don't know how that would go over, right? Like now all of a
Right.
sudden it's, well, I don't like the way you're parenting my child. Well, it's not your child, but it is my child because it's my genetics, right? So like that
Right.
just to add like another
layer to
layer
it.
of complexity. Like, and we know people who have used known donors and they essentially co-parent, and it's
Yeah.
like it
And it's
works for
great.
them. It's great
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
I just think like you and I have a hard enough time sometimes being like, hey, this is how we're going to raise our children. To like try and
Yeah.
throw another person into
Let
that
alone
would just
having
be like,
more opinions in the mix.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true. It's really true though. But that is part of the conversation. That how do we go about getting it? Do we want somebody that is completely anonymous, that, as you say, maybe the children will be able to have access to later on if they so choose, but or is it somebody that you know that may have an opinion about how you make the decisions you make? Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
You have more than one child. Did you find that the costs were fairly similar between with each process?
I think so, almost to a T, pretty much, because
Hoxley was more expensive because it was an extra try.
yeah. So one
Right.
extra try with Hoxley.
But aside from that, I think the
But
pricing
aside
was
from
really
that,
similar.
everything was pretty much
Equal?
identical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been like I don't know, less than $100, I would say, difference, just based on like the Ovidril shot. I don't remember when we did what, but sometimes
Ovidril, I think, was the second time we tried
with Hoxley, and then we did it with Grayson. I don't know,
I
but
think we did it with
yeah,
this. I
but
don't remember.
very similar though
It's
between
all
the
a
two.
blur, right?
It is all a blur, but and like we also know that we were very fortunate to be able to do IUI, and we've got lots of friends who that has not been the experience for them, and they've had to do IVF, and that was the plan for if we got to beyond 3 tries. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking with Hoxley getting towards that 3rd try and knowing that we may have to go down that route, because that's what the clinic really wants you to do. They don't want you to keep trying ICI or IUI. They want you to go on the drugs to increase the likelihood of the pregnancy. So we were fortunate.
I guess that makes sense. There are fertility clinics, so what they want is you to be successful with fertility. But
yeah,
that does put some extra stress on you, knowing that they've put a date stamp on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Are there any words of caution that you would share with other members of the 2S LGBTQIA community as a result of the experiences you've had?
Words of caution, but like if there's a fertility clinic or somebody who works at a fertility clinic that like ends up participating or watching what we're talking about right now. Quick backstory. The first time we had Hoxley, I wasn't in the picture when Christine first started the process. We hadn't even met yet. So I didn't go through all the like other parent stuff necessarily. When we had Grayson, we went in and they're like, okay, here's your intake paperwork basically. And despite the fact that like I wasn't carrying, it wasn't my egg, I had nothing genetically to do with the child that we were trying to have her get impregnated with, they gave me the same form and sent me for the same blood tests and all of that sort of stuff. And I'm like, it doesn't matter when my last period was, I'm not having a baby. Like,
right.
And even when Christine went back out and said, hey, I think this is the wrong form, they're like, no, that's just the form we have for women. And so, as the non-birth giving parent, there can be challenges like mentally with the fact that you're already not genetically related to, this would be my second child at that point. And so the fact that the clinic didn't have like an alternative set of paperwork for the non-birth giving parent or the non-donor parent in the case of like two men, right? Like that part was pretty frustrating because it just sort of like it left a real bad taste in my mouth because it was sort of reinforcing the fact that like, what do you need this information for? It's got like, I'm not participating in that way.
No,
I think that was the only thing that really like throughout the entire process that
It's just a
I
complete
found
lack of,
challenging.
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But we weren't the first like gay couple to have conceived through them. Like every time we were there, we saw other gay couples,
yeah.
like other, like married women or what have you, like in the waiting room. So it's not like we were an anomaly. This was not the first time they had done it. I
No.
would have expected by like 20, what year was Gracie born? 2020,
Yeah.
that, or I guess 2019, we were getting pregnant, that like they had a different form.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not genetically connected in any way, shape, or form? You're not participating in that way? Okay, cool. Here's the form for like bystanders.
Yeah.
I've seen you parent. I don't think you're a bystander, but I understand what you're saying.
Bystanders to the process, the initial process.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense to me that they needed that information that I needed. Like, why am I going for blood work?
Yeah. It was a complete lack of understanding and empathy.
And I just felt like they were just trying to get more money because it was like, oh, we'll just send you for the
they
same
wanted to make you like a
tests
patient.
as you.
Yeah.
So that's my only thing that like
Yeah.
left a sour taste in my mouth, was that particular part of the process. But
Yeah.
everybody we dealt with at the clinic
Was lovely.
Yeah. Like there was never a weird look or a confusion or like anything along those lines. Like the staff was great. I just thought their paperwork was antiquated.
Yeah. And that all by itself is othering, right? When we talk about, my next question is, throughout the process and becoming parents, have you ever been made to feel the other outside of that paperwork experience, which definitely ticks that box? Have there been other times?
I'm trying to think of if there's like, all of the doctors were fantastic, like at the hospital. And
yeah, we've been pretty lucky in terms of that. I mean, even my experience, like we were careful in choosing donors that had physical features close to myself.
Right.
So we look for donors that had dark hair. Not that you can tell anymore, because not a lot of dark hair anymore, Sam.
Really?
But we chose donors that had like a similar background and heritage to my family and those sorts of things, so that the potential was there for them to look a little bit more like me. And I've had lots of instances where I've been out with one of the kids and they're like, oh, you guys have the same eyes, they look just like you. And even our friends, and one of my favorite things is even like Hoxie's little buddy's parents, when they were at our house in the summertime, they're like, wow, he's so tall, but you're both tall. So it makes sense that he's tall. And so like I've, for the most part, had the opposite effect, or the opposite sort of experience of othering, which is even my parents or your parents have been like, well, you're both tall, or you both have blue eyes. And I think, to sort of the opposite of the paperwork scenario is, people just, he's mine, he's ours.
Yeah.
She's mine, she's ours.
Yeah.
And there's never been a question of like, nobody's ever said, well, what did the donor look like? Or was the donor tall, or anything like that? Like,
no,
we've volunteered that information to people.
Yeah.
No.
Normally afterwards, I'm like, hey, not mine. But I think I personally have felt very fortunate that there hasn't been a lot of othering that has gone on.
Yeah. Schools have been great.
Oh, school's been awesome. His school is I love his school. I love his teachers.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say it's always going to be like that, but like when we signed him up for kindergarten last year, like I put on a section of the form where they said, what else do we need to know about your child? And I said, he's got 2 moms. Like I need this to be very clear and concise on the paper. Like I don't want them looking at our names and thinking, oh, like maybe they're stepmoms. No. Like he has 2 moms, and it was important for the school to, and his teachers to understand that. They were lovely. Like we each got a card for Mother's Day. He got to do a card for Grandpa and Papa for Father's Day. Like they really, really accommodated him. Family unit, which I thought was really special.
Yeah.
That is important for them to do, right? I mean, the world is changing and family dynamics everywhere look very different all the time. So
yeah,
that's important.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there were any other experiences, but I can't think of anything else.
I don't think so.
No.
Excellent. That's a good thing. That's It's always a good thing, right? Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back.
Cuddle your baby in comfort in Moon Mama postpartum underwear, designed to not only keep you comfy, but also feel special. Each pair is hand-dyed, making them unique, just like the person wearing them. Visit us at heymoonmama.com and use code SAMLEESON for 15% off your purchase. That's SAMLEESON. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at Hey Moon Mama. Stay comfy.
Recognizing that there's bias, with full transparency to anybody watching, we're friends outside of this process of me interviewing you tonight. But and so you were one of the first couples that I spoke to and said, wanna be on my show and have me interview you. So I understand that there's bias there because of our friendship. But when you were going through the process, when you were expecting Honxley and you were preparing yourselves to become parents, do you think that a show like this would have been beneficial to you? And if so, what kinds of things would you have wanted to see included in a show like this?
We weren't even friends, I don't think, until
not till after Hawks was born.
Like, I wish we had known you when.
We've said that countless times that we so wish.
We went with midwives with Hawksley. That was sort of our compromise. You wanted to do a home birth. I was like, no, I want doctors in a hospital just in case. We ended up somewhere in between. But I think, like having somebody you can reach out to, especially the first time.
Yeah, because we had no idea where we were starting, like what we were doing. Like there's not a lot of helpful information online. If you call a fertility clinic, they just tell you that you have to go to your doctor first. Yeah. So it was kind of just like figuring out where to even start, and then just follow the process from there. And half the time, like they don't seem to talk to each other almost as well. So there's just a lot of ambiguity and like uncertainty and so many questions. And you just kind of feel like you're doing it all on your own, unless you know another couple or another, just somebody else that has gone through the same process. So if there was actually information out there that was accessible and that everybody could read and hear, I think that would be helpful. Would have been helpful.
I think, but especially for the community too, though, is like when you show up to, like, we didn't do any like pre-birth class, birthing classes, whatever you call those things.
No,
like we didn't do anything like that, because part of it's like, well, we're gonna show up and they're gonna be like, you just don't know who you're gonna run into, right? Yeah. And as lucky as we have been, even throughout most of my life, like there's a couple of instances where, I've had slurs thrown my direction or whichever, but for the most part, like I've been exceptionally lucky. You still don't know, like, you don't know if the person teaching that class is going to know what's what and have any, interest or disinterest in the community or whatever that is. So I think, having someone to talk to or classes that were a little bit more focused on like our community would have been just super helpful.
Yeah.
And even just somebody to reach out to. Like when we left the hospital with Hawksley, they checked his like bucket harness car seat thing, and they're like, okay, well, like, good luck. And we're like, what do you mean good luck? Like, we've had somebody with us for 2 days now. You're just like, there's no test, like, is nobody coming home with us? Like, what is happening here? And like our midwives are awesome, like especially the one that we spent so much time with in the hospital, Jen. Really, really great, like fantastic. But like they have so many people that they don't have the time necessarily to answer those silly questions. And I think so much of it is you don't know even what you need to ask until you're presented with a dilemma of sorts. And it's like, okay, I don't know what to do now, but okay, we'll try and figure it out.
Yeah.
Fair. Great. What is your favorite part of parenting above everything else?
We have a favorite? There's a favorite? Sam, we have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. I don't know the favorite. I have a least favorite.
Just watching them learn and grow, probably. It's just so cool. Like nieces and nephews are one thing, and like close family friends, like watching them grow is awesome. But like when they're your own children and you're with them every single day, and it's like, oh, like tonight Grayson made this weird sound with her mouth, and Jen's like, oh, that's new. And I was like, yeah, I haven't even heard that. She's like, yeah, she started it yesterday. So it's like, it's just amazing to be able to watch them and see all of these little things that you don't see otherwise, I guess. I don't know. What do you think?
I love like seeing them discover something the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's that wonder and even the 15th time or the 50th time, like Gracie's obsessed right now with the airplanes. Airplane.
Mm-hmm.
But like the second she hears an airplane, she's pointing and she's so excited and she's so happy. And I think it's those things, or
the ride at Santa's Village.
The ride at Santa's Village, she got to go on with an airplane. She loved that. But I think, just for both of them, like that sense of wonder in the world where like
seeing
magic still exists and seeing things for the first time. And, Huxley, when he gets super excited because he's a bit of a perfectionist. And so when he finally figures out how to do something, like he's so excited. He's like, mommy, did you see? And it's sharing in that excitement. And just, I think like watching them grow and develop and learn things and we threw the two of them in the back. We're at the cottage, right? So we threw the two of them in the tube today, just them. And like, you can see them like looking
so the best.
Yeah. Right. Hold on, kids. But you could see them looking and talking to each other. Right.
Yeah.
And like, we had no idea what they were saying, but like they would look at each other and talk and then look back and start smiling with their goggles and life jackets on. And it's like, it's those moments there where, you can't help but smile because it's they're experiencing something together and they're having a great time. Nobody threw anybody else out of the tube, thankfully. But it's those like little things where like, Huxley will have a boo-boo and Gracie runs over and kisses his boo-boo and she's like, oh, Huxley boo-boo, I kiss, right? And it's like, I think it's all those little things that are my favorite, the late nights and the temper tantrums and all that kind of stuff. Like maybe not so much, but they're watching them become the little humans that they are is pretty fun.
Fair.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for being a part of the show and taking some time to chat with me tonight and tell me more about the journey that you embarked upon to become parents. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.